Okay, hi guys, and welcome to another video. Today I am answering another commonly asked question from many of you whom have been following this channel for some time now. The question is, how do I choose a good kris? Now, this question is both interesting and has its share of complexities as well. The question is quite dynamic and cannot be answered in an ignorant and simplistic manner. You need to first identify and answer another set of questions before the answer to this question becomes meaningful to you. What are these questions? We will explore them right after this intro roll. Hey, if we are meeting for the first time, my name is Keris Johari, better known as Pak Jofe, the Kris Collector from Singapore, your personal guide to the exciting world of the kris and its collecting culture. If you are a fan of history, art and mythology embodied into these traditional daggers that we natives of the Malay world refer to as the kris, be sure to subscribe and join our community right here on the Kris Collector YouTube channel. Before I dive into the specifics of how to choose a good kris, allow me to direct your attention to these set of questions first. What kind of collector are you? Are you a casual collector? Or are you a serious collector? What is your aspiration? Do you intend to just be an enthusiast or a dedicated collector? Why do you want a kris? Is it just to honor and celebrate traditional heritage? Or are you going to commit and dedicate your time and resources to the study of not just tradition, but the holistic aspect of this material culture, ranging from history, art, craft, and sciences? If the answer to these first three questions are as follows: I plan to be a casual collector, I am just an enthusiast, I want to hear the stories only, and I just want to celebrate my traditional heritage so I can wear a kris alongside my traditional attire, then, my friend, this is where your journey ends into this video. Immediately, my recommendation for you is to go for the economical and budget option category, like the new Kodian kris, krisan, and kris gelanggang types. These are more suited for your budget, as you are not going to go in depth into the finer aesthetic of the kris art. Now, I am not putting anyone down here, but it is what it is. Today, there is simply an oversupply of new and poor quality mass-produced Kodians and kris-krisans defined as a kris by dealers of these items. Such dealers are aplenty, and these are not the types that I would associate with. In my opinion, it is an insult to put these mass-produced pieces on the same category of the artfully and masterfully crafted masterpieces produced by a true master of the kris craft. All experienced collectors can attest to this reality. A truly good kris cannot be completed within just a week. It takes months, years even, for a truly artistic masterpiece to be completed in its entirety. If it is industrialized, then it simply lacks aesthetic and artistic value and thus doesn't really make it a valuable item that deserves to be handed down to the next generation. It is fitting to position it as an accessory for cosplay and make-believe. What is becoming more obvious and annoying to true collectors today? Dealers and enthusiasts alike, proud of their mass-produced kodies, are preaching the aesthetics from a true masterpiece, but are using their kodies as a demonstrative example instead. To a collector, this is very distasteful and simply an injustice to the true artists and craftsmen of the kris art. Okay, it's story time. Now, not too long ago, I had a friend who came to me with a request that he is in need of cash urgently and he will be willing to pledge a kris that he owns for an agreed sum. Me, not wanting to disappoint him, decided to have a look at his piece, and boy was I disappointed. For an asking sum of somewhere around $2,000, what he presented was truly disappointing. What he presented to me does not even deserve to be called a kris. From my experience, this is simply another mass-produced poor quality kodi. To cut a long story short, he shared that he paid $3,000 to a local dealer who claimed that he has this rare and fine example of a kris. To which I slapped my forehead and proceeded to reprimand him for his gullibility and naivety. This is one of the reasons why I do not trust and recommend dealers on this channel. There's simply too few honorable and trusted folks around these days. Here's what to take note of if you want to buy a kris. Make sure you get the equivalent value of what you are paying for. Be sure to ask specifically when it is made, and by whom, and where. If a dealer is not forthcoming, take it as a red flag. You are better off buying direct from the source supplier for newly made mass-produced kodies. For antique pieces, you may want to refer to my earlier video on cataloging and request for such a record to ascertain its provenance and travel path. Last but not least, consult another trustworthy collector for an opinion, if they are willing to advise you. Else, you can always browse through the content in this channel and video for references. Now, in case you are wondering how that $3,000 kris looks like, here it is. You be the judge. I'll share more on what to look out for in a good kris later in this video. If your answer to the earlier three questions are, you are a serious collector, you aspire to be a great collector, and you want to own krises to study them in depth, then this section onwards is for you. You can proceed to expand on these with another question. Are you into the esoteric or exoteric aspects of a kris collecting? To recap on the definitions, as I have mentioned several times before in my previous videos, esoteric aspects refers to the unseen, the mystical and paranormal aspects of the kris lore. For example, all things associated with kodams and spiritual guardians of the kris, the luck associated with the number of looks, the palmar patterns, and so on and so forth. Exoteric aspects, on the other hand, refers to the physical aspects that can be quantifiable, identified, studied, and replicated on a physical plane. The artful and holistic science of kris aesthetics and nomenclature. On this channel, I will address and focus more on the exoteric aspects of the kris art. My appreciation stems from the position of an art collector. Experience have taught me to identify a good artwork when I see one. The esoteric qualities I do not discuss publicly, as this is the domain that often gets exploited by charlatans. These discussions are often confined within private discourse and classes. Some things are simply best kept for the private self, rather than for public exploit. Also, I am a firm believer that the paranormal is nothing more than the science of reality. And this science is often abused and exploited by irresponsible initiates to profit from the naive and ignorant masses. Now that you are clear of the direction of your journey, we can start with the next step. First and foremost, a good kris starts with being complete. It must have the following: the blade, obviously, the hilt or the hulu, the hilt cup or the pendongko, the fittings, which is the sarung. Additional adornments like tatahan or the pando is an additional bonus that not necessarily is a must, unless your collection style is only reserved for such kerises that must have its tatahan. Now that is out of the way, before we can even dive into the details of the blade, we need to look at the external aesthetic of the kris first. We need to observe and appreciate the fittings. Thus, the overall aesthetic feels like a match made in heaven, so to speak. What this means is, thus the presentation aesthetic looks and feels balanced. Does it look odd or out of place in any way? For example, you have a Javanese Surakarta hilt on a Malay Terengganu style fitting. This is an obvious mismatch in terms of style. If you encounter such examples, the next assumption may be that the original hilt may have been damaged or lost over the years, and a haphazard choice of replacement was hastily done. This is where knowledge and experience in identification of provenance comes in useful. Kerises are not all the same. Each have a culture and a story of their own, depending on their provenance and origin. You cannot ignorantly generalize that all kerises are the same. This is a very bigoted mistake to start off with. Next, then we will look at the blade. Again, it is essential to have knowledge and experience with the various blade types that exist in the kris lore of Nusantara. Just like the fittings, the blade itself must be aesthetically pleasing and balanced in terms of look and feel. A true master of the kris craft will accomplish this, something that all new Kodians lack today. Hence, in my opinion, becomes undeserving of being spoken in the same breath of a true kris masterpiece. A well-made kris blade is balanced, and the material used is of the finest quality. Quality kris blades, be it new or old, when made by a knowledgeable and experienced empu or pandai besi, will possess this feature. Their blades are rust resistant. Now, I'm not saying that it will not rust, but it is resistant to rust for a period long after the kris oils have dried up. Try observing on a poor quality kodi. Most times, even when freshly made, give it a few weeks, it will start to stain and rust. This is the result of poor quality recycled materials used. So in the end, you do get what you pay for. You want it cheap, you get cheap results. Hey, if you have learned something new from today's video, do have a care and remember to subscribe, like and share if you would. Your support will help this video reach out to other kris enthusiasts out there and will allow them to discover and explore deeper into the facets of kris collecting in upcoming videos. Do share your thoughts and questions in the comment section below, and let's weave the future of kris collecting together. Aside from quality materials selected in the production of the kris blade and fittings, a good kris is also defined by how well the design and stylistic form is crafted and executed. There is somewhat of a natural flow and alignment in its overall aesthetic, pleasing to look at and balanced in feel, and most importantly, it will adopt the principles of the golden ratio. Again, something that new mass-produced Codis and kris lack. Such pieces do not follow the mathematical principles of the golden ratio. The golden ratio is what gives not just krises, but any other works of art that subconscious connection and perception of balance and perfection. A learned empu or pandai besi may not recognize this concept of the golden ratio as it is, but by their own apprentice tradition and references. But to a learned individual who has done such studies will be able to recognize that concept. That is the secret of the balanced aesthetic of the kris craft, worthy to be recognized as a masterpiece. So that concludes today's answer to the question of how to choose a good kris. Aside from knowledge, experience, and understanding of the kris being selected, it boils down to the basic fundamental of what kind of collector are you. If you are on the casual end, it is highly unlikely that you will dedicate your time to research and study. Likelihood you are more geared towards the receiving end, to listen or read content created on social media, and your exploration ends there. On the other hand, if you are on the serious side of things, likely you are more studious, you are keen to research and read up subjects on your own, outside of what is available on the internet and social media pages. You are likely more adventurous and curious to gather first-hand information from the experienced and knowledgeable. Also likely that you will be more proactive in acquiring hands-on feel of genuine antique krises. If you missed my previous video on how to transform your kris hoard into a quality museum-worthy collection, check out that video here. Until my next video, stay curious, start exploring, and keep the legacy of the kris alive.